Hello, everyone. My name is Lori Ann Minoff, local president down in Broward County, and I am here with Madam Pamela Banks, past national president from 2021. Super excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Lorianne. It's great to be with you as always. I love chatting with you.
I kind of, just as a little sidebar, Pamela's part of my Realtor Association, so I do get to see her fairly often, probably more often than some of these other national past presidents. So it's always a pleasure to have this one-on-one time with you.
Thank
So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to give a brief introduction about yourself so we can learn a little bit about you.
Definitely. Real estate is not my first career, as for many of us that get into real estate. I actually did television production sales before I got into real estate. I worked for a local network. It was called the Teaching Learning Network, and they did a show called Trailside, which was on PBS, and it was an outdoor adventure show. And I had the midsection of the country, and I would reach out to local and state tourist bureaus, and I would pitch an idea for a 20-minute segment to promote their area. And back then, it was before 2000. It was about $45,000 to do a 20-minute segment on these areas. So I would pitch them and have really a great time getting to know these people. And then what happened along the way is the production company that was doing the filming wasn't always on the same page. And so after about my third time of presenting, and I'll never forget this, it was for the state of Michigan. We were going to do their tulip festival. Well, as you all know, tulips only bloom at a certain time of the year. And so we had to be there at this time. So when I got them down into a contract, everything was in writing, I gave it over to the production company. They came back to me and said, we can't go. We can't do that at that time. We have to do it a different time. And I thought, no, that's not how it works. And so after that, I decided, I was talking to a good friend of mine, and she said to me, just go get your real estate license. And that's when I went and got my real estate license. So it was the year 2000. I was 40 years old at the time. So it was kind of a big change for me. And I have never looked back.
Awesome. So let's get into our questions. So as a past national president of Women's Council of Realtors, what would you say are some of the major contributions that you made to the organization during your tenure?
So I know, Lorianne, you were great. You send over these questions, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. I can relate to all these things. And I have to say that the Women's Council of Realtors in 2021 was really coming out of the pandemic. And so it was a different time. 2020 was, what the heck are we going to do? And then 2021 was, okay, we got this. And so, really, my time as national president was more of, I would say, an advocacy of love, just showing the love and getting people back on track by listening, by communicating with them. And so it wasn't that I put together major programs. One of the things I did advocate for since I got on the line was going global, because we live in a global world, let's face it. So we were able to put together a global mastermind in 2021, which continues to this day. And then we also joined FIAPSI, which is the Worldwide Federation of Real Estate, which started in Paris, France, which is probably as old, almost as old as the Women's Council of Realtors. So those were the little things that I would say that really made my legacy as a national president important to not only me, but the organization, because it was a time of togetherness, a time of, we got this, now how do we move forward?
Awesome. So you touched on this a little bit about what the organization needed at that time. So how would you describe your leadership style, and how do you think it differed from predecessors?
So I am a very much a communicator, Lori, and I talk to people. I really want to know. I really want to get in with the members. I was all about the members. It was never about me. It was always about, how can I make someone else better? And when you go into a leadership role and you get to this level, as being a national president, you have the opportunity to touch so many people's lives. And so I think for me, what was one of the most valuable assets was, when I was the president, we have what's called the Leadership Institute. You've heard of it. It's a national leadership training program that is run through the Women's Council National. And that year we had 16 amazing women. And so I was the chair, and I was the one who was always in touch with them to see how they were doing, making sure they were doing well. And it was so rewarding to see those women start out at one point, which they thought they were doing pretty good. And then by the end, they had emerged into these amazing leaders, going on to serve on FREC, going on to work in their communities as a commissioner, going on to do amazing things. And I think that, to me, as a leader in this organization, is what it's all about. Leaders helping other leaders to become better at what they do.
I love that. I love that a lot. So, as you touched on again with the post-pandemic challenges that you faced during your presidency, how would you say you dealt with them? I mean, you did say that, maybe some of the more hands-on with the membership in terms of giving people what they needed at that time. People were scared. It was definitely a different world. People were even afraid to be in large crowds. So, how did you address those?
You adapt and you adjust and you alter to the change. And so I did 70 Zooms during that year all over the world. And that was my way of connecting with people. And what was so interesting is when I would meet them in person, they would say, I feel like I know you because you were in my living room, you were in my office with me, we communicated. So it was the ability to touch more members than I would have, because when you're a national president and you're traveling to all these different areas, it's a little bit of a financial burden on some areas and they can't afford to have you. But during Zoom, all they had to do was go online and request a Zoom with the president. And most of the time it fit into my schedule and I was more than welcome. And I spoke on everything from leadership qualities to listening to love to public speaking to, running a great meeting and to being a professional. So there were so many different ways. They would always say, well, this is what we're interested in. I'm like, okay, I got this. And then I would bring it to them, and their members had an opportunity to connect with a national leader that probably most of them would never have an opportunity to do. So that's really what made it stand out, I think, for everybody.
I love that. And there's always that saying that right leader at the right time. And that definitely seems like everything kind of came together and fit into, exactly what the membership needed. So what was your vision for the future of the council then? And have you seen it play out today? I mean, you touched on global and things like that, in
Yeah.
terms of influencing our current programs, policies, and priorities.
So what I think is interesting is the Women's Council changes people's lives. And it changed mine. It gave me the confidence, the courage to do things that I never imagined I would ever do. And it always starts on the local level. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit. But I wanted to just help people to understand that the skills that you learn and the being a part of this organization is what you take in and help you to be better no matter what you're doing, even if it's your personal life. I find that sometimes when women get involved, it's the first time they traveled on their own when they go, to Chicago for the training. And so these are things that are little baby steps that make a difference. And so what I was able to do is I look at the future of the Women's Council as being a very broad organization and maybe even this is kind of funny. I'm going to share this with you. It might never happen, but I think it's a great idea. Even more of a internet-based type of organization, because let's face it, everybody is busy. We're all doing things, and why not bring the Women's Council to them instead of them having to go to the Women's Council? So I look at the Women's Council as organizational structure, which has changed over the years, maybe being tweaked a little to offer more possibilities for some of the members at large that we have out there, that there's no network close to them, that they can also connect with the organization. And then I think the global aspect is key to broadening the horizons for the organization.
So kind of piggybacking off of that, this is not on my questions, but it just kind of prompted something. You addressed before the skills that you attained within Women's Council. How would you say that it really kind of helped you post your presidency?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, love it, Loriana. You know what? I thought being the national president was the top of my career. Like, this is it. You're the national president. Where do you go from here? But that's only the beginning, because it has given me so many opportunities for the network, the people that I've met, the people I've met all over the world, to do things that are universal, really, that there are some things that I'm working on now that are bigger than I ever imagined they would be. And I'm not going to share it all with you. It's going to come out sooner or later, but it is taking the skills, the courage, which is super important. Just let's face it, even speaking in front of people is something that takes courage. Taking that courage, taking the confidence that you get, maybe starting your own brokerage. You worked as a team, now you want to go out on your own. So taking all of these things, which are soft skills, and using them to your advantage as you continue to grow, because we're always growing, we're always learning, we're always doing something. At my age, I thought, when my mother was my age, she was done. She was like, okay, I've done it, I'm done. I'm just beginning. And so it's super exciting. And I share that with all the members, no matter, their age, no matter how long they've been, that, you never know where this will take you. You just never know.
So having said that, I am going to just address that 2 years ago, I did LEAP, which is the Florida leadership program. And Pamela was my mentor. And one of the big things that we always talked about pretty much every time we met was about public speaking, because that was something huge for me. And it was something that it really is such a skill and you have to continue. So we would talk about, yes, I said yes to this, but now I'm a nervous wreck. How am I actually going to get through this? And it did get better and better each time. And I will say that Pamela did convince me to even record things, because I had a policy where I don't watch any of my recordings, but just watching, taking pauses. So sometimes there's this little Pamela on my shoulder reminding me to take a breath. Because remember, I would talk in like one run on sentence, and
Oh yeah,
it was all these little things that really did help along the way. And not that I've arrived, but I feel like it gets better and better, each time I continue to do these things.
definitely. I mean, you have come such a long way, and you are one of my little peeps that I look at and I go, wow, I'm so proud of you. I really am. And so, as a leader and being able to give back, giving back and helping someone else see what they have inside of them is really what it's all about in my book. Making the world better one person at a time. And so, I look at you, and I remember you were up at a national conference and you had the opportunity to speak. And the first thing you did was come over to me, whoa, I know. And I said, that's good. You know what you did. So now
Yep.
we need to work on it.
Right. Well, just know that I appreciate from the bottom of my heart, and you are part of my journey and you are part of my story. And I can't thank you enough for that. And I know we
Oh,
were kind of put together, but at the same time, it worked out the way it should. And I will always, be grateful for that, and still am.
and you know what will make me so proud is you go on and shine and do your thing. And, I can always say, I remember when.
So this kind of segues nicely into the next question, which is about mentorship. So mentorship plays a big role in leadership. What impact do you believe your mentorship has had on council members fostering growth and development?
It's very interesting. Sometimes you're mentoring and you don't even know it. And that has happened with me. There are people that are, I would say, my mentors. They don't even know it. There are books that I read, authors that are my mentors. So you never know how you're going to touch somebody. And the one thing that I think is super important is listening. Listening is a skill that, you hear over and over. We have two ears, one mouth, use them wisely. And so when you can listen to someone and really not only listening to them verbally, but also the physical aspects of it, because you see your eyes are super important as well. You can tell when somebody's shutting down, you can tell when somebody's hurting. And that is the time that all you have to do is listen. Sometimes you don't even have to say a word. And then, because not all the time people want you to say anything. Sometimes they just want you to listen to them because nobody's listening to them. And so that's the kind of mentor that I am. And being part of that Leadership Institute, I shared a book with my group, and it was a super silly book, but I thought it was so apropos. The Little Engine That Could. It's a book we read as kids, but you don't realize it. It's always about, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And in the end, if you think you can, well, guess what? Then you can. And so that's the way I always approach things. And it's just part of being a leader. It's not, some leaders are really good at, putting together a structure and all this other stuff, and that's important. And then some leaders are like me that are really good at helping other people understand their value and where they fit into the bigger picture.
And I remember that the lunch that we had in DC, I guess it was a year ago at this point, where you gave me that book, The Four Agreements, which I really think that, is just kind of tried and true information. My cam Okay, I'm going to move on with that. All right, thank you. Little technology snafu, but we're going to move on. Could you talk about any advocacy? So speaking of DC, could you talk about any advocacy campaigns that you spearheaded during your presidency? What was the goal and was it achieved?
Like I said, the council had done so many different things over the last 4 or 5 years, leading up, and I was part of that process of the strategic plan, the structural changes. Things going from committees to task force, going from chapters to networks. There was a lot of changes, and the only advocacy that I could say that I was part of was more of the diversity aspect, getting everyone to the table. For the first time, we had at a national conference, we had ARIA, we had the LGBTQ plus, we had, who else did we have? We had like 4 or 5 different organizations coming together to talk about what makes them unique and what makes them different, and how they work, how we can work together to be better, and how to accept one another. And so that was a big thing for me, is just opening the door to see that, we are not alone. We are women, but we are also men, and we're all here together, and together we all get better.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so what key lessons do you think current members can learn from both the successes and the setbacks you experienced?
Okay, so this is really interesting. When I was coming up the state line in Florida, I was state president in 2015, and there was a lot going on. There's always going to be politics. Okay, let me just put it that way. You just need to deal with it. So a good friend of mine who wasn't in real estate, she said to me one time, she said, if you want to affect change, you've got to deal with the politics. And that really struck me. I thought, you know what? There are so many things I want to do. I'm not going to let anybody stop me from doing it. So just remember that not everybody is going to like you. And guess what? You're not going to like everybody. It's a lesson I had to learn. I'm thinking, oh, everybody's going to think I'm great. Well, you know what? Not everybody does. And that's okay. So accept yourself for who you are. As long as you're not doing anything that is wrong or that you're trying to hurt somebody, keep moving forward, keep rolling, and keep doing what you're doing, because you have a mission and you have something to give to other people. And people would say to me every time I went from state president, and then I was governor. At the time we had governors, and instead of our RV national liaisons, something like that. And then going on and running for the executive committee. I mean, when I ran for the state line, I remember being up there and my knees were shaking when I was speaking. I mean, I was so nervous, but I wasn't done. I still had something to do, and I wasn't going to let anyone stop me. So just remember that life goes on, and if one door closes, I hate to be a cliche, another door always opens.
I love that. I love that a lot. It's very inspiring. And I do think that, we see sometimes politics kind of, they're everywhere. But I do think that, kind of just staying the course, why you're committed, know your reason, know your why, and just keep pushing forward. So we're all going to have little Pamelas on our shoulder.
Well,
To
and life
remind us
is
of these.
tough. Let's face it, life is tough sometimes. Things are tough, but guess what? So are you. And
Right.
that's the way to look at it. We are tough too. And let's just keep moving forward and keep believing in yourself. Always believe in yourself. So that's the way I feel about it. And it's not always easy, believe me. Even myself, and now I still like, oh, sure. Is this right? Is it right? Is it not right? But you know what? Something I learned along the way is that we're going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. No one is not making mistakes. And that's okay, because that's where we learn. Those mistakes are valuable life lessons. I think we need to teach our kids and our grandkids. I have grandkids now. It's okay to make mistakes. Learn from them.
100%. And I think that we find that we could be at a crossroad where mistakes could either make us or break us. So we wanted to make us better. We want to do better, be better. And I think having those honest conversations with ourselves is really the way we get there. So I love that.
Right. And you know what? Reach out to somebody, sometimes you just need an ear. And like I said, if you're that person that somebody reaches out to you and you might want to go, but just listen. Just listen. You'd be surprised what you can learn. You don't learn anything when you're doing all the talking.
Valid point. Very, very good. Great information. So our Realtor Association is now a culmination of multiple Realtor associations that had merged. So how would you kind of say some of your earlier experiences at the local level kind of shape your approach to national campaigns, not only on the Realtor Association side, but even within your local network?
It's about building relationships. It's all about people, the networking. And so when I was local network president, it was about getting involved with the board. So the board knows what you're doing. Let the board know, be a partner with the board. I made sure that we met at the board to have our meetings. It was something that had never been done because the board was looking at the Women's Council, which they don't anymore. But back in the day, it was like, oh, they're just this little side group. We don't take them serious. Always mean business. And you know what the other thing is, and I'm going to have to say this too, is everyone is always watching you. Whether you believe it or not, they're watching you. And that means your board, your leaders in your board are watching you. And those members around you in the Women's Council and other organizations are watching you. So always be at your game, always be professional with your voice, the way you dress, the way you talk, and make sure that you smile. A smile is always, it's a simple thing. And some leaders are like, well, I'm just too serious. Well, you know what? You can be serious when it's time to be serious, but people want to know that you're human as well.
So it's so true. And I always say that we're our own billboard. We are our own, we're our own entrepreneurs. So we are our brand. And it's the same kind of capacity when you're serving in any sort of leadership role. You have to make sure that you are kind of representing the organization at all times. So that's
Always,
so
always.
valid. Always.
Well, Lori, yeah, you are always representing the organization, whether you believe it or not, you are. And so you always want to do that with the utmost in professionalism and make sure that people want to be part of it. People don't want to be part of a group where they're all, backstabbing or gossiping about each other. Nobody wants to be part of that. They want to be part of a professional organization that is helping them grow, both personally and professionally. And that's what it's all about.
Fantastic. So how would you say, so looking over your journey from local involvement to national leadership, what key lessons would you say current members should learn from your experiences?
Take one day at a time. There's going to be tough times, and you're going to feel like, what was I getting myself into? I've been there, done that, and I've always had to remind myself why I got in it in the first place. And you know what? If it's something that you say, you know what, this is not the right direction for me, then change direction. Don't be afraid to change directions because life is a journey. It's not a destination. And I've learned along the way that every time I always do the best job at what I'm doing. I'm never looking forward ahead. I never aspired to be a national president until I got onto national exec. And then I thought, what's my next move? But before then, local, I did my local job, I did my state jobs. Always do the best you can where you're at the moment. And then if you think you can do something and add value, then you move up to the next. And if you don't think you can, or you think that you'd be better serving somewhere else, it's okay to make that turn. It's all
Love,
good.
love it. We can always make U-turns. We can
That's right.
always change it.
Change direction.
Love it.
Yeah.
So this is our last question before any sort of kind of closing statement or anything that you want to make for our members. So any sage words of wisdom, or if I knew then what I know now type of moments would you love to share?
When you look back, you always think, I could have done things differently. I could have done things better. Don't have regrets. No regrets. That's the way I look at it. You did it and you move on. Those are some of the things that I think are very important. Learn from them. Not that you don't want to learn and get better at your crafts, but don't don't look back and think, I didn't do my best jobs. What I would tell Lorianne when I was speaking, I'm like, Lorianne, you're going to practice, you're going to prepare, and then you're going to make a different speech anyway. Nobody knows what you are going to do anyway. So do the best you can at all times, and don't compare yourself to everybody else. There's only one you. And I know that sounds so silly because you hear it and you know it, but it's true. It's so true. There's always going to be someone richer, smarter, more good looking, more connected than you are. Just get over it. Just get over it.
And that kind of ties nicely into our current president, Madam Denora Guerra from Miami. She has the saying that the be real, be you, be all in. So authenticity really is everything. And I kind of feel like that's always the overarching response is just be yourself. Be yourself. And this is how in business, even when you're serving, because that's what people can scope it out and they can feel it and they can feel when you're being genuine and when you're not.
And you know what? You're not going to be good at everything. Everybody has different gifts, and that's okay. Learning to delegate, that was one of the biggest things because we all want to do everything. We're those kind of people. We're going to do it. It's going to get done no matter, as long as it gets done. It doesn't matter how it gets done, as long as it gets done. And I had this analogy. I think I was, I don't know where I was in position wise, but I was at a meeting on the west coast of Florida, and they had a smorgasbord, and they had all the same items. But when we all got to the end, even though we filled our plates very differently. So just remember that everyone does things a little bit differently. Nobody does things the same. As long as it gets done, it's okay. It's all okay. It is your responsibility as the leader to make sure that it does get done. However, how it gets done is your opportunity to help someone else grow and learn.
I absolutely love that.
Great.
Well, I enjoyed our time together. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Really, I feel like being able to share these like words of wisdom and just be able to give our members, just these different little tidbits that who knows where it can help. Even sometimes just the slightest little bit of encouragement can really help people, kind of move in rapid ways or, marathon ways from where they felt that they were stuck. So I think that this is just such a testament to what the organization truly embodies and represents and continues to help people, on their leadership path. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Lorianne. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.